breaking up ever so slightly there,
Vikings.
Judd, but yeah, I know you made the segue to the Vikings. I can tell you Everson Griffen is doing well. The expectation is he should be good to go. I'm not big on like must win, like you have to win this game. It's still September, but
Yep.
like I don't see many instances going back many, many years. And I get it. There's the extra playoff team, right? There's 7 in each conference now. You have the extra game. So some of those 0-2 stats and notes that you see about, the unlikelihood of making the postseason when you start 0-2, to some degree, I get it, cite them, but I think you need to mention the caveat of extra game this year for the first time. And, going back many years, there was only 6 playoff teams per conference. We're now to the point of 7 playoff teams per conference. But like 0-3, like there are not many examples at all of digging out of that particular hole. So if you want to suggest Sunday is a must-win, go ahead. It's hard for me in September to say any game is a must-win. But yeah, good news on Everson Griffen. Judd, you told me last week, I can't remember if we talked about it on this podcast openly or if it was just on background, but I'm comfortable throwing it out there that you said, hey, just check on the possibility of Christian Darrisaw, getting in there pretty darn quick, like maybe as soon as this Sunday against Seattle. I can tell you, I don't know if he'll be in there Sunday. I can tell you from checking on Monday yesterday that he is progressing very, very well. So if you're going to make the move, I don't think you do it against Cleveland and Myles Garrett. So like if you're going to make that move in the next few weeks, I think you would do it this Sunday against Seattle. Certainly not week 4. I can tell you that much.
Right. And the one thing is, and it's been proven in these first 2 games, Rashad Hill is a backup. So it's not like he's playing well. He's okay, but he is. So I do think that if they could get Darrisaw, and I don't know if this will be the case or not, but to your point, if they could get him prepared to play on Sunday, they would play him. Because I think that's the final piece of the puzzle as far as that line goes, where he is going to be inserted as soon as they are comfortable. To your point, Myles Garrett might be a little much, but as soon as they're comfortable making that move, he gets put in. It's not he's a rookie, he shouldn't play. The Vikings never intended for Rashad Hill to have to play. So
yeah,
I think you're right about that.
Rashad wasn't a train wreck on Sunday. Now he had a good amount of help. Like Ben Ellefson ended up with 16, 17, 18 snaps. Kirk Cousins also got rid of the ball as fast as pretty much any game in his 4 years here. I didn't go back and look at his Washington, 6 years body of work, but he got rid of the ball incredibly fast. So presumably he's going to do that a lot more moving forward. So yeah, if you feel like Darrisaw, from what I can gather, is doing well, I think you can make a logical case, that you would do this now. It's what we brought up a couple weeks ago. I said, when is the logical time to make the move? Like after the bye doesn't make a whole lot of sense because at that time, DeMarcus Lawrence was healthy. And I'm like, I don't know, would you do it against the Cowboys coming out of the bye? But that's way down the road with a big time sense of urgency right now. I think you can make the case that the time is now. I know the reps have been incredibly limited, but get him as many reps as possible tomorrow, Thursday, those 2 big practice days, and then make a run at this thing as soon as Sunday. That is certainly something I'll be keeping an eye on as the week progresses.
Hey, Dukes, what's your sense of the way that Zim has handled this start, and especially the press conferences, I thought, after the loss to the Cardinals on Sunday, which was a really entertaining football game. And then Monday, there almost seems to be like a zen about Mike right now and a calm demeanor, which is not very Mike-like. What's your sense there as far as this start and the potential that there is going to be at some point in time here, 0-3, for instance, real pressure? I don't think the Wilfs would make an in-season move with Mike, but I do think that if this team does not make the playoffs in 2021, there will be changes, and starting with the coach, possibly the GM, and possibly the quarterback too. But the importance of this year, and you are right when you say the expectation internally at TCO is Super Bowl. The importance of this year is not, I hope we can be good. It is, We got a new defense. Let's go.
I don't know necessarily like Super Bowl. I know it's what I said last week, Judd. It's higher than any of us have placed on this team. I mean, it's certainly a deep run through January. So I mean, if you want to use the word Super Bowl, go for it. I just know
Right.
that they expect to win at least multiple playoff games. So yeah, I mean, if the season continues to spiral out of control from a losses standpoint, not that the on the field product has been, spiraling out of control. Certainly from an offensive standpoint, they've been pretty good. But if you continue to rack up all these losses, yeah, and like in season, like who are you going to make the interim head coach? I mean, Andre Patterson would be the likely choice, but
yeah,
really the co-defensive coordinator as the defense is struggling mightily. You're really going to make Andre Patterson the interim head coach? I'm with you. I struggle to see that come to fruition. On Zim, like I just know this much: Grandpa Zim, like him being a grandpa, has changed him. It really has. I'm not suggesting he's like this soft, cuddly teddy bear, but the fact that he's now a grandpa, that happened a few weeks ago. One of his daughters welcomed twins into the world.
Yep.
Like him being a grandpa has softened him at least somewhat. I also think he learned his lesson. Like, remember, back a few years ago after the Packers tie debacle early in the season, Daniel Carlson, and then Carlson, summarily dismissed.
Yep.
And some of those things that Zim had said, even going back to that preseason about, if he can't make his kicks, we'll just go for two. He was pretty flippant. He was, he pretty much psychologically ruined, Carlson, at least in terms of Carlson's Vikings run. He has rebounded incredibly well with the Las Vegas Raiders. But I do think, at least in terms of the kicker, like if you go back to Monday and some of the things Zim said about Greg Joseph, like I think that specific position, I think Zim learned a lesson about psychology and how to handle, that position and the emotional, fragileness
of the toll it took on Carlson.
Yeah, the toll. Yeah, and so I think that was.
I think you're right.
I don't want to say calculated, but I just, I think Zim has evolved from 3 years ago, right? That was 2018 with
Grandpa Zim. Grandpa Zim.
But Grandpa Zim. Like, I don't think
anybody's
really talking about that, but I just know from a couple people over there, like Mike, he gushes talking about those grandkids. So Grandpa Zim, there's something to be said about that. And I'm not suggesting, by the way, Judd, like it's 100%. Like what we've seen from Zim so far is 100% because he's a grandpa now. I just know how much he is loving being a grandpa. So I'm opining. It's a little bit more me opining. Yep. Some fact, like I know, no surprise, but he loves being a grandpa. So that's fact. Then I'm making the leap. I'm opining that it's possible that has softened him.
Those grandkids are distracting him. That's the problem. That's the problem with this team. He's being distracted by being a grandpa. I'm joking, folks. Football is king in Minnesota. Why don't you tell us why?
Yeah, I just saw the local TV ratings. I get those emailed to me on a daily basis. It takes an extra 24 hours for the final numbers to come in. So from Sunday here on late Tuesday morning, I have the numbers. The Vikings game averaged total viewers almost 757,000 people, a 66 share, very comparable to the week 1 numbers. And certainly like Sunday home game, you have a few ratings points in US Bank Stadium. So typically road games do better ratings wise than home games. But like you think about Sunday, like beautiful day, right? Like we only get so many beautiful days. Sunday was a phenomenal day, yet enough people were inside glued to their television sets. I also saw on Sunday night, because a lot of the award shows do well here. So it was the Emmy Awards on Sunday night. I don't remember what network had the Emmys, but we know that NBC had Chiefs Ravens Sunday Night Football, at least here in the Twin Cities. Chiefs Ravens destroyed the Emmy Awards. Good. It's just another reminder, Judd. It really is how much the NFL is king here in the Twin Cities. Many markets, but specifically here in the Twin Cities. People here in this viewing area, Twin Cities and the metropolitan area, just love consuming the National Football League.
Yeah, that's impressive. And plus, the amount of Vikings fans, and I'm sure that there were people who have moved, but the amount of Vikings fans in Glendale was incredible. Like you could hear the Skol chant. You could, I'd say like, don't know what Duke's last 10 years or so, Vikings fans have started to travel more than I ever recall. When I covered the Packers, Packer fans traveled. I mean, it was impressive. Steeler fans have always traveled well. When I covered the Vikings starting in 2005, people traveled, but it didn't seem like a huge group. Now, like you could literally hear the Skol chant. That's impressive.
Yeah, and I mean, heck, you could hear it in Cincinnati week 1. Like I'm with
Yeah.
you. I mean, Sunday in Arizona was super impressive, but so was week 1 in Cincinnati. I don't know when that transformation exactly happened. Did Adrian Peterson have a lot to do with that? Did the Brett Favre mini run have something to do with that? But yeah, I don't know how to exactly quantify this numbers wise, but it does seem like over the last decade or so now, coming off the weirdness of last year, COVID, are people itching that much more just to get out and about? So maybe, I don't know, maybe that's got something to do with it. But yeah, I mean, these first 2 weeks, like you think of the Steelers, like the Steelers can play any road game. You're going to see black and gold everywhere,
Yes.
right? The Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys played the Chargers in LA on Sunday. I think, just from watching some of it, I DVR'd the game because I was curious because I heard a national radio show driving home about this time last week, late at night, wondering how many Cowboys fans would be at SoFi. So I DVR'd the game. I mean, just from my naked eye, I think it was like 35% of the stadium, 40% of the stadium. And I get it. That's more a Rams town than a Chargers town. But like the Cowboys, like you're guaranteed anytime the Cowboys are on the road, there's going to be a significant amount of fans that are in attendance. But like the Vikings are climbing up the ladder. Like they're not Steelers Cowboys, but I think they're probably like, I don't know, top 10-ish in terms of just overall interest and certainly fans attending road games.
I'd say so. Wolves open camp next Tuesday, correct?
Yeah, so media day Monday. They open up camp 1 week from today, their first preseason game. You mentioned how the Wild play a preseason game here pretty darn fast. The Wolves have their first preseason game. I believe it's 10 or 11 days away. It's less than 2 weeks. So, yeah, I mean, everything is pretty much, ramping up. I mean, this is as busy a time as there is when it comes to the sports calendar with, baseball still going on as we transition to the playoffs. Heck, you've got, college hockey, men's and women's. Heck, we're going over to St. Thomas today. The St. Thomas women open up their Division I slate this weekend in Columbus against Ohio State.
Really?
Like, so yeah, women's hockey ramping up as soon as this weekend.
In conference.
Right? Like college basketball is ramping up here, pretty quick. And, coaches have been in the gym. In fact, actually, Ben Johnson wasn't in the gym yesterday because he was in New York. He went to go visit a recruit, Jaden Pierre. I mean, the Gophers really want this kid from the East Coast. He was here for an official visit during the Ohio State football game, those 48 hours or so. So the Gophers are putting the hardcore, press on Jaden Pierre. It's going to be them or Providence. That's the buzz. So, I mean, the Gophers really want this Jaden Pierre guard for the 2022 recruiting class. But yeah, I mean, just everything, right? Like Ryder Cup this week, just so much going on. But
Great
yeah,
time of year, Doogie.
Yeah, the NBA certainly ramps up next week. We have the news today, although I'm not quite sure it's like shocking or breaking news, but it's certainly, headline worthy that Woj from ESPN is reporting that it's official. I think it was always trending this way. I don't think Ben Simmons was reporting to Philly, all of a sudden holding hands with Doc Rivers singing Kumbaya, but that Ben Simmons will not report to training camp. He is willing to sit this thing out. There will be fines, right? I don't think Philadelphia is going to bypass those. So, I mean, he's going to have to pay the fines. What this now does is we truly will see, and regardless of this report, we would have seen it anyway, with camps opening next week. But like Daryl Morey, how much will he just sit back and say, okay, Ben's got 4 years, we'll just ride this thing out? Or I need to make a move. I'm not getting what I'm looking for. Can I get, 75% of what I'm looking for? 65%. But is it in the best interest of the franchise for me to accept some deal so we can move on? So in Philadelphia's minds, as they chase Brooklyn and Milwaukee, but Philadelphia still feels like they have this championship window open. So that's why they want immediate help. They're not looking for all these future draft picks, these young assets. That's where I still think if you're the Wolves, you need to involve a third team. But this is when we'll find out here pretty quick. Like Daryl Morey, okay, like, are you willing to sit back or are you going to accept? Because he can make a deal right now. Jed, I'm positive. He can make a deal right now if he wants to. It's not what he's looking for. But if he wants to trade Ben Simmons today, he can. So we'll find out pretty quick where Daryl Morey stands.
So in your opinion, Dukes, does this step help the Wolves or basically keep it status quo, that they know that he's not going to show up for training camp?
I would say indifferent, that this doesn't change anything.
So status quo. Okay.
Status quo. Yeah, it is. It's status quo. And I still sense that the Wolves would need to find a third team. I still sense it's a long shot, not an impossible shot, but a long shot for Ben Simmons to land here.
Gopher football, my good man. You came to my house. We broke bread or cookies during the game. Colorado and Minnesota on the Pac-12 non-HD, may I add, network. What did you ultimately take away from what was a rout of the Buffaloes? The Buffaloes aren't that great, but I'm loath to dismiss when you go into a opponent's house, shut them out, and it's a legitimate team. It's not an also ran. What was your ultimate takeaway from that game?
Well, I'll give you one takeaway. If we're going to praise Vikings fans for the way they've traveled, there was a ton of maroon and gold. In fact, I was at PJ Fleck's news conference on Monday. So Randy Johnson of the Star Tribune brought this up. I was talking to the voice of the Gophers, Mike Graham. Andy Grader of the Pioneer Press also chimed in. I mean, it was their estimation pretty much across the board, all three of them, 8 to 9 to 10,000 Gophers fans in Boulder on Saturday. So that was super impressive. That's something that has shifted the last handful of years. Gophers fans traveling more and more. Like, I can only imagine, like, November 13th, it's already circled on my calendar. Gophers at Iowa. Like, let's
Who
see
hates
how many
Iowa?
Gophers fans
We hate Iowa.
track down. Yeah. Let's see how many tickets Gophers fans could track down for that one. But I imagine many Gophers fans would like to make that trip, especially if Iowa ends up undefeated at that point, if the Gophers are 8-1. Yeah, I mean, like when ranking PJ Fleck's most impressive victories here, okay, Penn State, maybe 1, or Wisconsin, 1. Like when you beat a Power 5 opponent 30-0, it's the first time you shut out a Power 5 opponent in 45 years, going back to the late 70s. Yeah, I mean, on the most impressive scale, that's one of Fleck's most impressive wins. I do think come like late November, we are going to see Colorado at the bottom of the Pac-12 standings. Maybe not like rock bottom. That might be Arizona, but they're going to be at the bottom of those standings. I think the performance against Texas A&M, them almost winning that game a couple weeks ago, more a mirage than a trend. And like for the Gophers defense, I need to see more before I buy in that all of a sudden this is a trend, because going back to last year, the first 2 games of this year, this defense has been shredded in many ways. But I thought they tackled really well. Having Chris Autman-Bell back is a difference maker. Like, he gets 50-50 balls. Tanner Morgan's willing to throw the ball up 50-50. Like that one down the left sideline, Judd, that was a phenomenal catch, the way he adjusted to that ball. That offensive line has multiple NFL players. John Michael Schmitz at center is an NFL player. Blaise Andrews at guard is an NFL player. Daniel Falele at right tackle is a high draft pick. Like, I'm talking top 75 NFL draft pick. So they have, in my mind, at least 3 guys on that offensive line that will minimum be in training camps. I think guys have a chance to at least land on a practice squad next year. And certainly in the case of Falele, he's going to be on a 53-man roster. So I thought the offensive line, imposed its will. I thought they dominated the line of scrimmage. And, after watching that performance, I am optimistic that there is a pathway to them being 8-1 heading to Iowa City. Yeah, the game at Purdue in a couple weeks, it's an 11 a.m. kickoff. We just found that out on Monday, another 11 a.m. kickoff. But
of course,
yeah, that could be a tricky game. But I think they'll be favored. Like, Judd, I think they will be favored in every game until November 13th.
Is Purdue good? I can't decide because I watched the game.
The Bell kid, the really good wide receiver, got injured in the Notre Dame loss. They were very competitive in South Bend. It
That's
was a
what I thought.
one-touchdown game.
I watched it.
I thought there was a pass interference call that the officials missed.
Yep.
That then Notre Dame ended up getting the ball. I can't remember if it was a turnover or if it was a punt. And then Notre Dame ends up scoring on a long touchdown. Yep. The score looks somewhat skewed at 2 touchdowns that Notre Dame won by 14. But I thought Purdue was very, very competitive in that game. But they're down their number 1 running back. He's out for the year. That injury happened a few weeks back. The Bell kid is a phenomenal receiver. He's now in the concussion protocol. So we don't know, what his status will be. We still have many days until, what's the date of that game? October 2nd. So we have a ways to go until October 2nd. Gophers in West Lafayette. That would be the one tricky game. Northwestern looks putrid.
They're awful.
I don't see a game on the schedule. Nebraska. Yeah, Nebraska gave Oklahoma a good game, but the Gophers absolutely should win that game. So, yeah, I'm looking at the schedule. Call me nuts, but 8-1 seems pretty darn realistic heading into November 13th.
Think about that. You said something that's true, but hilarious. Did you ever think in this state that you would say the Gophers are going to play Nebraska and should definitely win? Think about that for a second. Think about how college football has changed in some ways.
They won last year down. How many guys because of COVID?
It's like
if you talk to
10,
PJ Fleck,
12.
I think he's admitted this on the record, but I'm just telling you. PJ Fleck would tell you, I was just ranking most impressive wins for the Gophers, and I said Wisconsin, Penn State, certainly, winning 30-0 at Colorado is up there. PJ Fleck would tell you, Judd, the win last year in Lincoln, down, I'd have to go to the Google, but they were down so many guys because of COVID. That game, they were coming off a COVID break, right? They hadn't played for multiple weeks. I'm just telling you, PJ Fleck ranks that win against Nebraska last year. I think he might rank it number 1. Maybe he would say Wisconsin and getting the axe back and that, but that, I know that Nebraska win, not just Fleck, others internally, that Nebraska win resonates still to this day a ton with them.
Rapid fire scoops, sir. What you got for us?
Well, I'm trying to think what else. Twins wise.
Andrelton Simmons is back.
Nothing.
Been activated
goody.
From the reserve list.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. I'm excited to see the Lynx. I was remiss, as we mentioned everything going on. The Lynx opened the playoffs on Sunday. Remember way back when, because of the Olympic break. So it was way back when. It's been a very long season. They began the season 0-4.
I remember that.
For them to
I covered the first game.
Yeah. And now that they're the number 3 seed, they have a legitimate chance. So I wish Cheryl Reeve and company all the best. It was Cheryl Reeve's birthday earlier this week. So I wish her a happy birthday. I'm trying to think what else. I should have jotted a couple things down, Jed. I mentioned Ben Johnson in New York yesterday to see Jaden Pierre. You know what? I will mention Anthony Barr because we didn't bring up Anthony Barr with the Vikings.
Yep.
I really do sense this, and I'm not saying this lightly, that when the Vikings made the decision not to put him on injured reserve, that they really thought he'd be back for the week 2 game. I think they thought, week 1, that would have been really aggressive. I don't think him sitting out the Cincinnati game was overly shocking.
Sure.
Now, as the week progressed, if you talked to Vikings people last Thursday, they knew, okay, at that point, Barr wasn't going to play against Arizona. But if you go back multiple weeks, I think a few Vikings people would tell you that they expected Barr to be back for this week 2 game. So that's another Viking situation I'll be monitoring this week.
Do we expect him back, do you think, then, for the home opener against the Seahawks?
Well,
or is that touch and go now?
I think it's touch and go, but here's the question. Who sees the field first, Barr or Darrisaw? I still think it's Barr, but I think it's touch and go. I do. He's also in a contract year, right? He's not going to put his body on the line.
They cut his pay too, dude.
If he's not close to 100%, they did cut his pay too. So, you got to think of that angle as well. But I'm just telling you, there are some Vikings people that thought, a couple weeks back that he would be good to go for Kyler Murray and the Cardinals.
The only surprising thing is Nick Vigil, who they signed, who played in Mike's defense with the Bengals at one point, has done a fantastic job. He's good. I had no idea what to expect. He has stepped in and played really well. I've been impressed. The pick for a touchdown is obviously the highlight play he's made, but just as far as a steadying presence, he looks to me to be a pretty damn good player.
Well, he was over, on the sideline for that ball that got ripped away, almost got both feet in. So that would have been him being a part of another turnover. I actually thought he made a pretty athletic play to get into the end zone on the pick six that I believe it was Rondell Moore. Maybe it was Christian Kirk, but I think it was Rondell Moore. Sort of had an angle to push him out of bounds, but he avoided that, found his way in. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember too many missed tackles. Certainly, the Vikings missed a good amount of tackles on Sunday, like Eric Kendricks of all people. Like the squib kick and the end of the first half shenanigans. The play right before Prater's 61-yard field goal, go back and watch it. Eric Kendricks had a chance to secure Rondell Moore, and at that point, it would have been like a 68-yard field goal.
Yes.
Cliff Kingsbury wasn't attempting a 68-yard field goal. And Kendricks misses the tackle. Moore is able to get out of bounds with 1 second, gain an extra 6-7 yards. Like, when does Eric Kendricks miss tackles? So a lot of guys miss
when he's
tackles
hurt
on Sunday. Yeah, well, he's not 100%.
He was playing hurt.
And I know that he missed games last year, calf issue, but he's a really tough guy. Like, on the toughness scale, Eric Kendricks would be in my top 3 in that locker room.
All right, Dukes, thanks much, and we will talk to you for another scoop session on Thursday with Mr. Mackey in tow, okay?
Okay, sounds good, Judd. Take it easy. Have a good day. See you. Thanks for the hospitality on Saturday.
No worries. No worries at all. Mi casa, your casa.